Howdy Exiles, it's me, Vashthelos, and I have another build I would like to talk to you guys about today. It is Artillery Ballista Hierophant, and at first I was trying this out as a Rain of Arrows Hierophant, and that did not really work out as I would have hoped. I have put a lot of thought into this, and performed multiple playthroughs upon multiple ascendancies to see what feels good. So I hope you'll hear me out and take a look through all of the different passive trees that I think might be worthwhile, as well as the skills that I have laid out that you should put into your items as you're playing through the campaign. And I've also included some example items that got me through my playthroughs as well, and an exhaustive notes section. So let's get going. Forward. This build makes use of the elemental mastery. Hits have 25% chance to treat monster elemental resistances as inverted. This is very powerful. It could be nerfed. We're still waiting on the patch notes, so cross your fingers, guys. We really do want that to survive. I've imported some of the gear through my playthroughs. Some items such as Unnatural Instinct are used to display changes in the passive trees. You'll notice I've included a lot of options. Play around. This is not dogma. Have fun. I'm sorry if this is overwhelming. I tried my best to color code things in a way that is digestible, and I have not fully optimized this build. I do not want to spoil everything for my I don't want to spoil everything for myself for 3.22. And there are certain things like I'm not really certain on, like concentrated effect. It does reduce our AoE by a lot. It says it's more damage, but is it really? Not sure. Little things like that. So there are changes that can certainly be made. Why Artillery Ballista? It's got low attribute requirements. It's got low gear requirements. Scales pretty well. Great area of effect. Decent single target. High effectiveness of added damage due to how many projectiles we're spitting out. I wanted to play an on-hit Ballista that wasn't Toxic Rain or Explosive Arrow, as I have done both of those many times. Late game, we will have up to 9 totems, and since we're Hierophant, that is a lot of additional more damage just for having our totems exist. And due to our pathing, our totems are going to be pretty tanky too. They will be survivable, and we have the option to make them even more survivable, but I don't really like putting those points up here by Primal Manifestation. I don't know why. I just don't really like that notable. I think it's kind of underpowered. Moving on. Pre-swap leveling tips. I won't try and go through all of these note for note, letter for letter. So I'm just going to try and focus on the important parts for you in this video, or at least like a crash course. Focus on 3 blue sockets early on. 3 blue links, so that you can put in Rolling Magma, Combustion, and Arcane Surge, or Unbound Ailments. You choose that one. I prefer Arcane Surge for the cast speed. And don't level up that Arcane Surge. I don't ever level it up because I just want permanent uptime. If you prefer the damage, then so be it, but I warned you. I warned you. And grab a Clarity so that you can solve a little bit of your mana troubles early on if you don't like pressing your mana flasks. It doesn't really bother me, but I know some people hate pressing those mana flasks. Include Flame Wall and Holy Flame Totem for your single target troubles early on. And once you've reached your first Ascendancy and completed the library quest in Act 3 for Syosa, swap over to Artillery Ballista and Ancestral Bond and grab these next gems. These are pretty important. So Anger, Precision, Frenzy, and Sniper's Mark. Ensnaring's Arrow is not 100% necessary, but you can pair it with a Mana Forged Arrow, and that's just an additional damage steroid that you can take advantage of. You can also swap in Frenzy if you're feeling lazy and just want those to like alternate. The uptime is still really good. What else? Try to get a Jade Amulet early on so that you can swap earlier, and look for these sockets while you're leveling after that swap. You want to focus on flat elemental damage, attack speed, accuracy, projectile speed, and bow attacks fire additional arrows. Always pick up and identify these rares, conserve inventory space, and continue moving forward with as little reorganizing as possible. Use a combination of these 4 R's. You can mix and match or take some of these out and put in your favorite instead. but try to think about what those R's provide in place of what I offer here. These are not the endgame RS setups. This is just what I think is most important, and from there you can make your own decisions. For bandits, kill all bandits. Ascendancies, we're going to be going Pursuit of Faith, Ritual of Awakening, Conviction of Power, and Divine Guidance. You really can swap as soon as you get Pursuit of Faith, but if you want to wait and continue using Rolling Magma, or sorry, I'm blanking on what the skill is called. Yeah, it was Rolling Magma. If you want to continue using that skill until Ritual of Awakening, and then swap at your second Ascendancy, you'd probably be perfectly fine to make that decision. And Divine Guidance will be your last Ascendancy because everything else is just far and beyond more useful. Pantheon, Brine King, Ralakesh. Runner-up would probably be Soul of Aberoth with captured soul, so that you can ignore Burning Ground and farm Searing Exarch maps really easily once you've reached that portion of mapping. Annoyance, you should focus on Watchtowers, which will save you about 3 skill points, or you can get Charisma, which would save you approximately, let's see here, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4 skill points. And those are both pretty expensive, 2 silvers and 2 gold oils respectively. So here are some other options that I've listed while you work your way up to those annoyance. Artillery, Ballista, and other mechanics. This is finally another section that doesn't involve us gearing and leveling. So 1. Try to make Artillery Ballista level 22 or higher. This is important because at level 22 we gain the maximum amount of additional totems from the skill Artillery Ballista itself. That number is plus 4 totems. Anything below level 22 will provide plus 3. Or at least, anything before level 22 will scale up to plus 3. Try to get additional projectiles. We want plus 4. Artillery Ballista can shotgun, which is why we want those additional projectiles. And I reviewed a video made by Grimro for his Lightning Arrow Artillery Ballista Deadeye, and according to him, if I'm not mistaken, this is the number of additional projectiles that is the sweet spot for that shotgun effect. So try and get plus 4 additional projectiles in whatever way you can. Delay. Projectile speed will directly translate to our ability to hit our target in real time. We're using ballistas, so the delay operates in 3 stages. We summon that totem, right? That totem then will select that target and start attacking. And then those projectiles will hit that target, i.e. land. So there is a fair amount of delay once you start thinking about it, but in real time it really isn't all that bad once you get going. Origin. Origin of the projectile is transferred to the ballista. This matters if you plan on taking advantage of point blank or far shot. We haven't pathed for either of those in either our items or passive tree, but I wanted to include that information just in case you were curious about the mechanic. Target size. The bigger they are, the harder they fall. Ralakesh, I'm going to use this as an example. Ralakesh in Act 7 is a smaller, human-sized boss who will take a little bit longer to kill than, say, something like Arakali, a gigantic spider. Defensive layers. Evasion, armor, cast when damage taken setup of your choosing. Spell suppression, endurance charges, life regeneration, totem taunt on summon, or 5% damage taken from hits is taken from your nearest totem's life before you. That would become available down here in this totem mastery at the bottom of our tree. We also have a little bit of a defensive layer through 10% of damage is taken from mana before life. So, I didn't think to include that one because it's such a small amount, but it is there. Base types. I've included important base types for you to pay attention to. I'll give you some brief explanations here in this video as to why that might be. Imperial Bow. It gives you an implicit for free elemental damage and has physical damage comparable to a spine bow. Plus or minus 10 damage or something, and we're not going to be focusing on physical modifiers anyways. So I think Imperial Bow does win over a spine, but kind of interchangeable there in terms of late game. Everything else is a runner-up. You should pick those up and identify them until you find something that's better than the last one you were using. For endgame, you'll want a feathered quiver. It's just huge amount of quality of life, and then since we're going to be taking a mastery that gives us increased damage off of how much projectile speed we have added, it's, in my mind, the obvious choice. So moving on to belts, Stygian Vise, Abyss Socket. That Abyss Jewel can have anything from corrupted blood immunity to resistances from life to additional damage, reservation efficiency. It's really crazy. So I think Stygian Vise is a no-brainer as well. For helmets, I'm leaning on a Blizzard Crown, as that will allow us to get free added cold damage and then raise our target's cold resistance, which will be potentially inverted, which is a good thing for us. Lion Pelts and Nightmare Bassinets are runner-ups. Everything else, look for armor and evasion as your base types. Unless you're doing something weird, but I'm not really going to go into detail for like extreme variations as if you're to be like, you know, some weird low life Divine Shield, Energy Shield, Giga Chad, Ballista build. Moving on. Cluster Jewels. So since we're going to be a league starter, I have noted that you shouldn't really focus on this. But if you do happen upon a 12% increased totem damage medium cluster jewel, then try to get Sleepless Sentries on it if you find yourself with a little bit of excess currency. And there's some runner-ups there as well. Timeless Jewel, get a Brutal Restraint whenever you can afford it or whenever you can do that content. And there's a list of useful modifiers. I've also included a website in case you're kind of picky and you want the perfect jewel. Alternate quality gems. Divergent Artillery Ballista is easily the most important because it gives +1 additional arrow. You would still have to corrupt that into a +21 in order to get that level 22. And Divergent Inspiration, also an expensive one, but can help with mana troubles if you still want to benefit from inspiration charges instead of doing something like a life tap. Awakened Elemental Damage with attacks is going to allow you to run Elemental Reflect maps without care. I've included some divination cards and other methods for you to cheese out a 6-link early on, or if you want to farm one. I've included all the mana tools available to us in case you find yourself in a pinch. Come read this section and it will show light on, you know, what options you have available to you. I personally plan on using an Enlighten support in my chest with the rest of my auras, and that's going to help solve a lot of my woes. Problem monster mods. So Proximity Shield plus Trickster and high movement speed. Trickster is, you know, not a mandatory for this to be annoying. It's really just kind of like high movement speed. But Proximity Shield is obviously a problem for totem builds, or really any projectile build. So I've tried to include some options for you to read through on making that interaction feel better, but just try not to let it upset you. You know, sometimes there's just Giga Chad monsters that come along and make it harder for us than we usually feel it is. And yeah, we're at the end of the guide. I've died 15 times on my character as of now. I am level 70. I'm currently in Act 9, about to complete the campaign. And I wanted to make this video before I guess lost the opportunity. What if another content creator started talking about it, or honestly, I'm pretty forgetful sometimes too. Still need to make that Path of Exile 2 video. But yeah, that's it, guys. Give this one a try. Let me know how it feels. Definitely planning on making this my league starter if nothing changes too much in the upcoming patch notes. I am about to go live on Twitch, so head on over to twitch.tv/Vashthloss. And don't forget to join the Discord so that you can see what else the community is up to. I hope you guys have fun, and I will see you next time. Peace.